Good morning. Thank
Morning.
you. Zubin, how you doing today?
Very good, nurses. How about yourself?
Good, good. I just wanted to introduce you to our listeners and our clients and customers alike.
Sure.
I've been working with Zubin for over 12 years, which is pretty much the length that I've been in real estate. Before that, when I was with a bank, that's when I really met Zubin. And that's when I really filtered through anybody and everybody that I work with, whether it's mortgage brokers, lawyers, inspectors, and what have you. You've actually been very successful at making the entire department get up anytime you had a complaint when I was at the bank. And therefore, I love working with you because I know you can handle business like nobody else can. I want to talk, today's purpose really is to inform and educate some of our buyers that have purchased pre-construction throughout the years, throughout the past 3 to 5 years, I would say, and some of which are now coming up to occupancy.
Correct.
Mind you, the COVID-19 has put a little bit of a delay into that process, but we would like to help them in preparing and taking the right steps approaching their closing. So
Correct.
we're going to cover a few questions. Do stop me when you want to. We're going to try and make this quick and concise so that people won't get bored of seeing two bearded faces on video.
I see that our looks have been updated for this COVID season.
That's it. That's it. When you trust your wife to give you a haircut, that happens.
I've been debating it. I haven't taken the plunge on that yet.
I think it's you're getting up there. It's time.
My hairstylist sent me a text offering to guide me.
Fantastic. No, don't do it yourself here. This is what you look like.
Yeah.
What you look like at the end. So Zubin, our first question that we want to cover today is about occupancy. What is occupancy? What's the occupancy period? And what does the occupancy fee cover? A lot of our buyers and clients will ask us, does the occupancy fee contribute to their mortgage?
Yeah, I understand. It's actually 4 or 5 little questions packaged together there. So we'll take a second to unpack each one at a time. I think it is a good idea to actually take a step back to actually know why there's an occupancy period in the first place. Because when you understand the theory behind the situation, it makes the practical application a little easier to digest. So what practically happens is that the builder builds a condominium building. Low rise, high rise, doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
The project will be completed, or the building will be ready at some point. And when I say ready, the key milestone is that the city has issued an occupational health and safety certificate for the units.
Got it.
That happens earlier than the time that title has been created to the property. So essentially, there's a time period where the building or the unit is ready to be occupied, but you cannot be the legal owner or put a mortgage on the property because of the fact that the declaration or the building has yet to be born into existence, legally speaking.
Got you. So at this point, the building is minus 6 months old.
It could be anywhere from it could be no interim closing. Some builders can be very, very organized, and they can have the timing of their occupancy lined up for the creation of the condo documents, which negates the need to have an interim closing. So it's a misnomer that every condo will have 2 closings. Most will, but some simply won't.
I know of at least one builder that they've eliminated the occupancy period. So when you get into your unit, it's hotel quality, everything's ready, there's no occupancy. But that also brings the fact that when you're getting your keys to your unit and you're now able to legally resell your unit, so is everyone else.
Yes, correct. I get that there's a bunching up issue there as opposed to slowly having the closings completed over weeks and months in a building.
Yeah.
The next question you asked, now that we know what it is, let's answer how long it lasts for, which we've already started to talk about. Essentially, there can be no time, so you could go straight to your final closing, up to 1 year. Now, 1 year is per the Terrion rules. However, I do know of one or two projects, just one or two projects that have gone beyond the 12-month period because incorrect plans were submitted to the city. Something has actually happened that created a problem, which meant that the interim period went for beyond 1 year. But that's a very rare situation. Most closings will take place within 1 year from the time of occupancy.
Got you. Is there recourse on the buyer's behalf if they go beyond the 1 year?
No.
Okay, got it.
There's no recourse. As a lawyer, I had looked into that because one of these projects was one that I had happened to bought a unit into, and I very quickly discovered that there is no recourse, as you
Understood. Now, does this contribute to the occupancy fee, let's say, that we're paying? Does it contribute to people's mortgage?
This is the number one question that I receive with regard to interim occupancy closings, and the answer is no. In fact, some people call this payment the phantom mortgage or the builder's rent.
Understood. Could you tell us how that's calculated, the interim occupancy fee?
Absolutely. In fact, it's a good idea to know what it is because you have to know what to expect to pay. And in theory, what I tell people is that what your estimated closing costs are with your estimated property taxes, your estimated maintenance, and interest at a government rate, which currently today is 3.29.
Got it.
So think about it. If you happen to get a mortgage at the end of this process, a conventional mortgage with 20% down, and your interest rate is less than 3.29, essentially your carrying costs will be slightly less than the occupancy fees that you are paying with the builder during these few months. If your mortgage comes in higher than 3.29, well, then you'll pay just a little bit more than that after the final closing.
Is the fact that in occupancy fee, you're really only paying the 3.29%. Let's say, hypothetically speaking, you bought a condo for $400,000.
Correct.
And you put down 20%. So now your mortgage is 320 grand. So on 320 grand, you're going to pay the 3.29% interest, and it's interest only, right?
Interest only.
Whereas when you register your unit and get a mortgage, you're paying interest and principal. That's why I find a lot of times your occupancy fee is quite a bit less.
That's right. That's right.
Your
For the
mortgage,
two reasons,
property
in fact,
tax
the rate and you're not making blended payments. It's a fantastic point. I'm glad you mentioned that as well.
Got you. Okay. So I think this covers our first question about occupancy fees, what it is.
I felt like we handled several little questions in there.
Yes. So we covered what the occupancy fee is, as well as what it does not contribute to your mortgage. It's based on the calculation of estimated property taxes, estimated maintenance fees, as well as the interest on your balance owing after your deposits.
Sure.
It could last for up to 1 year.
Very
few buildings have gone past that, of one or two max.
Yeah, I wouldn't dwell on that. Yeah.
Got you. So actually, this covered our second question too, which was about how long an occupancy term can last.
Right.
The third question, which is asked by literally every single buyer that we have, and if they don't ask, we make sure that we discuss it with them just so that they're prepared, because we don't like the element of surprise.
That's right.
Closing costs for pre-construction purchases. What are they? How much would they be? Every agreement is different. I agree. What can our buyers look out for? What are some things that they can do pre-firming up their deal to make sure that they don't, set themselves up?
That's a great question. That's a great question. And I know that a big city is really on the ball when it comes to this issue, because you do not want your clients to have unknown surprises in the coming years, which are many, many years down the pipe. And the one thing that you insist on is that all of your clients get their agreement reviewed during the 10-day cooling off period.
Yes.
And you're very good with that.
Mandatory.
You actually put the agreement right into my hand and you say, do a free review, regardless of whether they want to or not, or whether they want to use you or not. And that's completely fair, because at least that client has the knowledge of what will likely happen coming down the pipe in the years to come.
Yeah.
I wouldn't get into the specifics, but let's talk generally about the 3 or 4 costs you can expect to pay. Okay.
Okay.
So on a new condominium, when you're closing it, you can expect to pay the following things. Number 1, land transfer tax, just like
Yeah.
any other regular resale or any other transaction. 2, closing costs for your legal fees, title insurance, and government registration. That's again the same as closing a resale condominium.
Gotcha.
Now, some of the key differences are in the builder charges. Those are the charges that are typically buried in the agreements, which many people are not aware of unless they've had their agreement reviewed specifically.
Yeah.
And these are charges for Tarion enrollment, hydro connection, water connections. You can have Section 37 charges, public art charges, community enhancements, all the way down to $50 for the blue box, as you know.
Got it. Got it. Of course. Of
Okay.
course. Of course.
I separate builder charges from builder adjustments for the following reason. Builder charges are essentially things that you pay for once
Got it.
in order to close a new condominium.
Yes.
Adjustments are different. Adjustments are things that you need to pay for that have been paid by the vendor in advance for you.
Such as?
Property taxes, occupancy fees for the month of closing,
Okay.
and for the month of closing, typically your maintenance.
Correct. It gets adjusted. Let's say you're closing mid-month, you owe the builder half the month.
That's right. Now, people can underestimate the cost of this charge for the following reason. Builders can adjust for taxes on 2 or 3 different methodologies, one of which includes estimating the actual assessed property taxes and then paying them in full for the closing for the year of closing.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're closing a 2-bedroom condo in
Which,
Toronto
let's say
or the
you bought for
905,
800,000.
exactly, easily, and you're closing in January or February, I mean, the annual property taxes could be $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000.
Yeah.
Of which, if you're closing in January or February, essentially you'll pay all of that taxes on day one.
Because they prepaid it and now
That's
you owe it
right.
to them.
That's right. So it's important to be mindful of the adjustments as a separate matter from the builder charges.
Understood.
Which is, of course, separate than all of the regular closing costs you would have paid on any resale property.
Gotcha. Gotcha. I think this will also cover our next question, which is how does closing a pre-construction transaction differ from closing a resale existing?
I'll offer a few more tidbits on this point. Okay.
Yeah.
So on this point, when you buy resale, the degree of certainty is extremely high.
Okay.
You've had a chance and an opportunity to view the property. In fact, visit the property.
Yes.
The closing date is long established and is often occurring on 30, 60, 90 days, maybe 4 or 5 months at the longest. There's a high degree of certainty for your closing dates.
Yes.
The closing date does not shift.
It does not. It does not. Unless, in the odd occasion when both parties
That's
agree.
right. And exactly. So with a resale transaction, your degree of certainty is extremely high all the way through. So if you're the type of person that wants a high degree of certainty, resale can be attractive for that reason.
100%.
A new home or a new condo comes with, it requires an appetite for risk.
Yeah.
Like any other investments.
Yeah, we've been through a few experiences which taught us more and more and more. They say you learn through your own wallet.
My take on that is that as long as you don't lose on any one particular property, you live to do battle another day.
100%. We've made sure of that so far for the past 12 years.
Yeah, so far.
Yeah, so far so good. My next question, which is very very common nowadays, COVID-19.
Yeah.
The coronavirus that's literally handicapped every single business, every single person, every single trade and industry.
Yeah.
What are you finding at your office? Well, right now I'm assuming you're at your home office or you're actually at the office, but what are you finding? Like, what are the challenges that you're seeing with closings that are happening currently with the COVID-19?
That's obviously a good question. It's obviously a good question. And as you know, real estate in full, every aspect, from the realtor to the insurance company to the bank to the lawyer to the mover, has been deemed an essential service.
Yes.
The government is very, very clear in that they want closings to occur as scheduled. There is
Understood.
the director of the land titles office has come has come out and said very clearly that other than a government order, the land titles office shall remain open.
So it is, I mean, it's not business as usual, but it is business as usual as far as closing the transactions that are.
Absolutely.
Okay.
In that regard, it is completely business as usual. I will say that for the client, in terms of the client experience and closing during this time, it's actually remarkably similar to what you would have experienced before. The key difference is, instead of coming to my office and signing in front of me in my immediate presence, the Law Society has authorized lawyers to conduct these meetings by video conference, so that the commissioning can be done remotely. So the key difference is, instead of coming to see me, I will send you the documents, I watch you sign the documents, and then the documents are returned to my office.
So you're witnessing it electronically, per se.
Exactly.
Got it.
And
Got
that's
it.
an update.
That makes a lot of sense.
That is an update that the government has permitted just on the eve of announcing the shutdown. What clients need to do during this time, I'm happy to share. Okay. And it's actually, I do get this question from time to time. How can I help to make sure that my closing goes even smoother just because of what's going on?
Yeah.
And there is absolutely an answer to that question. Number one, have your mortgage organized before the closing. That is the number one job. And when I say your mortgage is to be organized, not in a general way where you've been told verbally that everything is okay. You to know that you are actually okay, you should have completed the appraisal,
signed the commitment,
and signed the commitments.
Yeah.
And know that the instructions have gone to the lawyer's office.
Gotcha.
When those three things have occurred, then you're actually okay.
Gotcha. Makes a lot of sense.
And the earlier that's done, and it can be done weeks earlier.
Yeah. You just have to be proactive in getting the ducks lined up properly.
Exactly.
Another question I have
on the rushing around at the end for scheduling appointment, dropping off the client's funds at the end of the day.
Nobody wants to do that last minute. I agree.
That's right. Often bankers or the lenders will suggest that there's plenty of time for the closing. And that is, of course, correct. But that line of thinking doesn't allow for the time to review for mortgage conditions, prepare the documents, comfortably schedule appointments, as opposed to telling somebody you have to come now, tomorrow at this time specifically.
Yeah, I agree. Being proactive is the key to success over here. My other question, Zubin, is, which kind of reverts back to occupancy. You had mentioned how the builder would need to obtain an occupational health and safety certificate for
Correct.
them to take occupancy of the building.
Correct.
Is the entity that issues that certificate open right now?
My understanding is that they are still issuing certificates.
Gotcha. Just on a slower pace?
It's the city building department that does that.
Understood. Okay.
Yeah.
One last thing. A lot of our clients who have bought pre-construction, including myself, on all the condos that I have in pre-construction, I received notice from the builder on each and every one, saying that they're exercising their unavoidable delay clause from carry on. Could we talk about that quickly?
We can talk about that. The long and short of it is that this is a technical requirement on behalf of carry-ons, which builders are required to serve the owners or the purchasers. You can file that notice along with all your other paperwork for the transaction and forward a copy to your lawyer. There's no actionable part on the part of the purchaser once receiving it.
Got it. So you're receiving it. They're basically just letting you know your closing has been delayed until further notice, really, because the pandemic's still ongoing.
Absolutely correct.
Got it. And you have no recourse on that either.
Absolutely. File it away. Don't think about it.
Fantastic. Okay. I think this covers pretty well most of the questions that we wanted to ask you. We will include your contact information. Of course, most of our clients are already with you. You have their agreements, but if anyone has any questions, they can reach out to you by email, and I'm sure you'll be kind enough to.
No, thanks for the opportunity, Ursus, and thank you for organizing this meeting today.
Thank you, Zubin. Have yourself a fantastic day and be safe, please. Take care of yourself and family.
You too, buddy.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.